Hi, I'm Maria Kelly, and I am the writing instructor for ASPD 215. So, a little bit about myself. I have been teaching at George Fox this will be my 6th year. I have 3 kids. They are 10, 8, and 6. 10, 8, 6. So that's a little bit about me. I went to Willamette University for both my degrees. Undergrad, I got a degree in sociology, a BA, and then I went to the MAT school for language arts, English. So that is a little bit about me. I've been taught at the middle, high school, college level. And I kind of really found my passion for adult teaching when I went overseas back in 2008. I taught overseas at South Korea, and I got to really work with students, college-age students, and helping them develop their writing skills for grad school. So I spent a lot of time helping students develop their essays to get into MBA school and law school, and lots of different graduate programs. But that's really kind of where I felt really connected with students, helping them, progress and develop their skills, develop their career. So when I came back, I had a great opportunity to work at George Fox, and that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 6 years. So anyways, hi, nice to meet you. Okay, so I'm just going to jump into the PowerPoint. Each week I'll post videos that kind of talk about, the different weeks that we have on PowerPoint. And it'll just give you a little bit more insight to, what you don't get in the classroom. When you work and take classes online, you don't have that, as much interaction with an instructor and your peers as you do in a face-to-face class. So this course specifically is hard. It's really hard. It makes your brain work. It makes your brain hurt a little bit. And this is a different style of writing that most of you have never done before. So it's good and bad. Good because everyone's kind of starting at the same spot, same place, same starting point. Hard because it's different, and it is hard. It makes you really think. It makes you develop abstract concepts and relate personal life to education, and you really have to kind of prove your personal learning experiences, validate them as academic learning. So it's challenging for sure. So anyways, let's just get right into the PowerPoint. Okay, so syllabus, everyone should be able to see on Foxtail the syllabus. I posted that, a while ago. And we're kind of just, everything that you need is on there on the resources page. I can even just, let me do a quick share screen here so you can see. Here you go. So you can see all these resources here. You have our syllabus, the course descriptions that we'll get to later, the PLA student site, which is really helpful, the student guide, which if you need a copy of it, like an actual, printed copy, you can email me or Courtney Elrod and we will get that to you. Otherwise, it's available right here online. The template, so the essay template, so you can kind of see the order of things, and you can kind of, create your own version for your essay. The PLA outline that we're going to use, we are going to be doing an outline, essay, outline, essay, outline, essay for the next few weeks. So by the end of this course, you will have written 3 full essays that you can submit to the PLA student site, so you can submit them for credit. So not only do you get credit for passing this course, you have, by the end of the course, you'll have essays that you can use to turn in for additional credit, which is awesome. Okay, so also, as you can see, week 1. Okay, so you know where to find things. So please let me know once you've looked through the syllabus, you've looked on the website, you know, your student guide, and if you have questions, please email me for sure. I am available. I just want to say, where did I go? Okay, I just want to say that in an online class, you know, I'm here. I'm working from home. I'm available. So please don't feel like you are bothering me. I like it when you bug me. I want this, and especially for this course, this is hard. You're going to have questions, and instead of just assuming and writing, you know, an 8 to 10 page paper, why not ask? And then you get, you know, the answer, you get clarification, and then, you know, you're not wasting your time after, you know, because if you don't, then I grade it and you get it back and you're like, oh man, I was completely, you know, went on a different tangent and I really should have been focusing this way. So let me help you, you know, save some time and energy. Contact me if you have any questions. I'm here. Okay, so syllabus. All right, so like I said, you're going to be writing 3 life learning essays for credit. And the way it works is you are not getting, like say you write an essay about owning a supermarket. You're not going to get, and you get 3 credits for that essay. Your credit is not going to go directly to like a business class. Even if you submit it to the business department, it just goes under elective credit. So no matter what department you submit your essay to, when you receive credit, which your goal is 2 to 3 credits per essay, it'll just go under elective credits. So there you go. Okay, so like I said, the outline is going to be a rough draft, final draft, rough draft, final draft, and we'll do that 3 times, and it'll be the end of the course. And you'll have 3 essays that you can submit for evaluation and credit. To keep in mind, you're going to be, you know, you're going to take an experience, and this will get easier. I'm going to tell you, just like right now, it's going to feel really overwhelming. It's going to feel impossible, and you're going to not really know what to do. But don't worry, it gets easier each week. You just need to make sure that you set aside a lot of time to read and write, and that you just take lots of breaks, you know. So that means you need to set up some writing time each day. And I mean that, each day. This is not a class that you can procrastinate and just, you know, dish it out the night before, because it's very like systematic process, and you'll need to write and step away and come back and you know, revise and step away. So you'll need time to do that. And if you do that and you follow this, you know, method, you will see the results by getting, you know, awarded 2 to 3 credits per essay. So the reason why this is challenging, this course is challenging, is because you are taking personal experiences and explaining and justifying how they serve as academic credit. So, for example, if I owned a grocery store business and for 3 years, and I learned a whole lot about like marketing and customer service and purchasing, right? If I learned all those things, I'm telling the business department, I'm presenting a paper to the business faculty saying, I don't need to take your business, you know, 215 course or 240 or 340. I've already learned those concepts from this experience, and here's how I did it. So it's taking a personal experience, but you're kind of talking about, and you'll learn this through your learning outcomes. Your learning outcomes are basically abstract concepts to your to a learning outcome that you would learn in a business course. So you're kind of tailoring each essay to a specific department and telling them, I don't need to take, this psychology course because I've already learned, the concepts you're listing in a psychology course. I've already learned those, back in 2015 or something like that. And then you kind of tell the story explaining how you've learned those concepts. So it's a lot of abstract thinking. It's a lot of critical thinking. And it also helps to have some research to back up your claim that what you're saying is learned in college courses. So there you go. You also have an option. Well, let's start here. Okay, so these life learning essays, they need to demonstrate that you have learned this experience, these learning outcomes outside of a traditional classroom. So they can't be trainings. Trainings, you can write essays for trainings, and those are outside of this class, and we'll talk a little bit about them. So if you have had like real estate training, dental hygienist training, x-ray technician training, like those types of things, they will give you credit, but it's a different format. And so if you've had those, please reach out to me and we can work on that. But for this course, we're only working on personal and professional essays. So the essays, the experiences that you have need to have happened outside of the classroom. So I've had students who have, started a personal cleaning service, who have, learned how to become a realtor, who have run a marathon for the first time, who have processed their being adopted. There's lots of different ways that you can go. Moving abroad. I've had students who've moved abroad or who left home for the first time. And it has to be a transformational experience, like that has impacted and changed you. So there has to be demonstrated areas of growth, right? Where you've learned something. And typically those are transformational changes. So those are kind of the experiences you want to focus on. And that it has to be of college level learning, just the ideas, like being able to explain that. So the experience is going to sound weird, but the experience is not as important as the amount of learning that took place from it. Because people think, I need to have these huge experiences, like, I went through a divorce, or I'm a recovering drug addict. Like, it doesn't have to be that big. I've had students write essays on leaving home for the first time, growing an organic garden, right? So, getting a divorce and growing an organic garden when you look at them, you're like, whoa, this one probably had so much learning compared to this one. But it depends on what you personally learned from it, right? So you could have a major experience, but if you haven't taken the time to reflect and analyze and pull out the learning, it's not going to go anywhere. Same thing, if you have this organic garden, it's like this simple little learning experience, but you grew from it, you learned from it, change happened, and you're able to articulate that. That's huge. So the experiences aren't the important part. It's the learning that you can explain and justify that matters. So that's why I say this course is hard and challenging, because you really have to think, you have to reflect. And it's also important to note that if you aren't ready to reflect on experiences, don't do it, right? So you need to have already done that work. You can't be doing it right now. So if it's something that you're currently going through, you don't want to use that experience because you haven't had the amount of time to really reflect and work through it. Whereas if you've experienced it maybe 5 years ago, you're able to kind of look back and do some reflections and pull out the learning that took place. So keep that in mind. Also, even if it is something that has happened a while ago, that's just really too hard for you, I say table it. Like, maybe put it aside for your last essay, or just think about it, because your first essay really should be something light that you are able to practice this whole, cold model learning. It's easier to do on something that's lighter, like, I have a lot of students that write about being thrown into management positions, right? A student who was, working at a Blockbuster back in the day, and the manager quit like a month into him working there, and he was thrown into management. Like, so much learning took place. He had a huge, steep learning curve, but it wasn't something that really rattled him inside. And so those types of experiences where lots of learning took place, but it's not so heavy and deep that it can hurt to reflect. So just keep that in mind. If you're ready to do it, like, I'm all for it, and I'm happy to help and support. Just keep that in mind for the first essay. Okay. So from the first course, I'm gonna move my camera over. So once you finish this course, you will have a full 12 months to submit your essays. So you have a whole year. However, the amount of work that it takes to write these essays and to have that knowledge in your head, it's better to do it sooner than later. So as you are working through these essays, you are going to want to go back and tweak your essays, and use the Writing Center and really refine them for the faculty by the time this course is done, because it'll be easier to do it right away, especially because we'll be going into winter break after this. Right? Yeah, we'll be going into winter break. Anyways, but when you have a long break, you're going to want to go back and do that, whether you're on winter break, spring break, whatever it is. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so you will submit your essay to a faculty member in one of the departments. So you only choose one department, whether it's psychology, sociology, HR, health, religion, whichever department. It's only one department. So you really have to make sure your learning outcomes are also all tailored to that one department. You can't have a learning outcome that fits sociology and one that fits business, because you're only submitting it to one department. So your LOs need to reflect that department. Okay, and then once they evaluate your essay, they return it to you and give you the reward. They award the credit. So there are moments, which typically are 2 to 3 credits. They offer at times rewrites. So if you're really close, say like they're giving you 2 credits and they're like, hey, if you revise this section, I really think you can get 3 credits. Or they can say, hey, this essay is not going to work because of X, Y, and Z. You need to revise it in order to receive credit. So, and then once you get your credit, it goes right onto your transcript, and there you go. Okay, close this here. All right, so the writing piece. You are writing 3 8 to 10 page papers, and there's 4 sections, which we'll continue to work on. Each week we will go through all 4 sections. I recommend using research to support your LOs, which we call them learning outcomes, your LOs, only because it really solidifies your argument. You're saying that what you have learned is valid, and not only have you learned it, but this academic, reliable source also believes that falls under this, category of department. So it just really solidifies your claim. You will learn in this class how to just write really clear, simple, organized essays. If you're a person who really likes to be fluffy and wordy, we're going to pull it out, and we're going to focus on the content that matters, because each section you're only given a couple pages, and you have to fit a lot in those 2 to 3 pages per section. So there's not a lot of room for fluff, and you'll learn as we continue on. So it's good to really help you refine your writing skills, as far as figuring out what works and what doesn't, what's important and what is just extra. And also the book on writing well. Zinsser is amazing. He's going to make you laugh because of the way he views writing, which is very interesting and a refreshing take, because we always think of like academic writing is just so filled with fluff and academia words and jargon, and we're not saying anything, but we sound super smart. And he's totally debunking it and saying like, nope, I would rather have clean, clear, crisp ideas, content support, and just speak to me so I know what you're saying. So anyways, we're going to work on that a lot in this class because you need it to do this essay. So preparation, like I said, you are going to need a lot of time set aside. So plan for that. And then if you realize you don't need as much, then hey, you're in better shape. But I promise you, this course is going to take several hours of your time each week to prepare what you need. And it's even harder right now because we are cramming in, 8 weeks worth of content into 7 now, just for this round. Anyways, so you do the reading, whether it's, it's Zinsser, your PLA student guide, get the reading out of the way, right? That's the easy part. Watch your videos, going through PowerPoint, get all the content that you need first, okay? Then start working on your essay. And I suggest, setting aside several hours. Now this is for the essay part. Your PLA part might not take as much time, your outline, but especially because this will be your first one and you're gonna feel a bit overwhelmed and not know how to tackle it, I suggest writing every day and taking breaks and coming back, just because it kind of spreads out that overwhelming feeling. And then there's gonna be a lot of time that you're gonna need to sit down and rewrite and revise. So please set aside time. Okay, so cold model. This essay is reflective of the cold model. And there's 4 sections. As week 1, you're asked to research about the cold model, right? It's an adult learning theory. It's everything that this program at GFU is based on is the adult learning theory. So this essay also reflects that. And there's 4 sections: concrete, observations, abstract generalizations, application. The most important section is abstract generalizations. And I know it's section 3 and it's kind of wonky, but if you don't have that section nailed down, the rest of the sections don't matter, because anything you change in abstract generalizations, section 3, anything you change in there changes everything else. So for our outlines, we really focus on developing section 3 so that you don't have to go back and change everything. You can just change your abstract generalizations, your section 3, change it, refine it, make it to exactly what you need, and then go and write the rest of the sections. So that saves you time and energy, and I'm all about saving you time. And just stress, like, can you imagine if you wrote a 10-page paper and then you had to change section 3, which changed everything else, how much more writing you would have to do, rather than just work on this outline. It's this one section. We kind of bullet point everything else you'll see in the template for our outline. But then you really can refine that section, and then the second week go and write the rest of the essay. It's less overwhelming, I have found. Okay, so like I said, these are the 4 different sections. So just briefly, we're going to go over them every week, and I promise you, you're going to get them all confused. You're going to write stuff in different sections, and I'm going to help you reorganize it, and I'm going to remind you every week what information goes in what section. So concrete, it is like the story. What's your story? Like, and it's not just like telling me all the ins and outs of the story. It's really focusing on the 5 W's, like the who, what, where, when, why. And it's kind of like a newspaper article for your experience, right? So you don't talk about all the fluffy stuff, or you don't talk about your feelings, what it was like to go through that experience. You're just giving me the newspaper article, the details, the specifics, without the feelings. It's just like, here's the story. This is what happened. And it really focuses on how you learned your learning outcomes, which that's going to be the hard part, to develop that in a story, and we'll continue to work on that. So observations and feelings, that's where you get to reflect and talk about, looking back, what did you not realize? Looking back, what was that like for you going through that experience? looking back, just how you were feeling in those moments while you were learning these outcomes. So everything in each section is reflecting back on the learning outcomes, which you'll see why I say that, because if you change anything, it changes the information in the other sections. So, you know, concrete is like how you learned that the learning outcomes were important. Observations and reflections were like while you were learning this, what was that like for you? And then the abstract generalizations is very academic, and it helps to have research to kind of support why you feel those are academic concepts. And again, that's like the hardest section to write, and I think it's because it shifts writing gears, whereas like you're telling a story and then you kind of flip the switch to a little bit academic, you know, hat, and you are writing very and like an academic presentation, because this is where you're defending your experience and relating it to an academic world. And then application is where you are taking each LO that you've written and showing how you apply it in the future. So specific scenarios where you have used each LO in the future, or if you haven't done it yet, how you plan to. That's an option also. So I'll give you a little example. Okay, well, let's talk the PPA essays. So, right, we kind of went through the credits. Who determines the credits? Faculty, so we're good there. Okay, so I'll give you just like a little example. So last year, 2019, I guess maybe more than a year ago, I had found a lump in my throat, and turned out it was thyroid cancer, and I had to have, you know, surgery, have it removed, went through radiation, all of that. Oh yeah, you can see I have my little scar right here. So all is well for me, but that was an experience that I went through, and I'm in a good place to share that. And we share a lot of experiences in this class. So please, you know, whatever you write, if you're not comfortable sharing with your peers or with myself, contact me, and maybe we can find some other experiences, which we're going to do a timeline activity in a little bit where it kind of gives you some ideas on things to write about. So, okay. So anyways, back to my thyroid. So that was something I went through, right? I'm not right here in concrete. I'm not telling you about like how I was feeling or what it was like for me. I'm just telling you like, hey, in 2019, I noticed there was a lump on my throat, and I went to the doctor. I had it checked out. They ran a biopsy. After the biopsy, they evaluated it and said, you know, it's cancerous. You need to have that removed. Had it removed, and then once they removed it, they evaluated it more and said, hey, there's some like I had some lymph nodes, and so they evaluated that and said, hey, that's also cancerous, and so it's spread a little bit. So we're just gonna we took out your whole thyroid, and we're gonna ask you to do some radiation, which means I had to quarantine myself in a room for a week without any people next to me. And I have 3 kids, you know, so that was challenging. But see how I'm already going like, oh, that was hard. Like you just stick to, this is what happened, A, B, C, D, the end, right? Okay, so then observations, reflections, I am telling you like, oh, it was hard. Like hearing that news was, I kind of had already felt that that when they started, you know, it was a really big lump. So it already, and they said it was really long. And so I kind of already felt like, even though they hadn't diagnosed me with it, that it was most likely like they were going to tell me I had cancer. And I had already like started mentally preparing myself for that, because I got kids and I don't want to scare them or make them feel worried about mommy. And so that was, you know, I kind of took that news hard at first, but I realized I needed to process it quickly and do what I needed to do to be in a healthy state for my kids. I could also see that I knew that I didn't want my kids to worry, because luckily for me, thyroid cancer is very treatable. And so it's not something, it could come back, but it's not something that would most likely spread, elsewhere. And so it was something that could be removed and controlled. And so I really focused on letting my kids know that, hey, right now we have no reason to be worried. Here's all the information. This is exactly when, what date mommy's getting her surgery. This is exactly what they're going to do. This is what's going to happen when I come home. And especially when I went through radiation, we had to have lots and lots of conversations of like what can and can't happen, because my kids couldn't come into the room, and I couldn't come out for 7 days. And so being able to have those conversations and just keep it to just, we all are just in positive spirits, and this is all going to work out well right now. We have no reason to think that we should be worried, so we're not going to be worried. And that really kept them calm, and they were very matter of fact. If they, told a friend like, oh yeah, my mom had surgery yesterday, and my friends were like, they text me and be like, what happened? I didn't know that. And like, we're fine. Like, I'm home, all's well. So anyways, that's kind of the reflection part. So abstract generalizations, this is where you need to pull the learning out. And it has to be something that can relate to a specific, department and major. So for mine, I would say for this essay, what my LOs that I've written, they would be geared to more of a health department, because I talk about self-care. I talk about keeping stress out of my kids' lives. I talk about allowing people to care for me. So it's definitely into like that health area. So, and as you can see, for like self-care, keeping stress out and allowing others to help me, those were things I didn't know before. Like before this experience, I have parenting styles, yes, and we read these books, but I didn't realize how important it was for me to keep the calmness and give them all that information, and how well they were able to handle it because we went through this experience. And I personally don't really like people helping me. I am very much like a go-getter. I do it on my own. I like to do things on my own. And I really learned through this experience that it was important for people to help me because they wanted to support me. They wanted to show they cared about me and they loved me. And I needed to let them do that, because when a friend or family member is going through something like that, you feel like, oh my gosh, what can I do? Like, please let me do something. And it was a way for them to help me, and I needed it. I don't know why I thought I didn't need it, but I did. And so anyways, as you're looking at these LOs and you go back to the concrete and the observation, you'll realize that you have to put that information about your LO in the concrete and in the observation, but it's different parts of the story that you're sharing. So the abstract is kind of where you're sharing what you learned, but the concrete is where you're kind of sharing the details on how you learned it. Like, this happened, then this happened, and then I realized, ooh, wow, I was able to figure this out. Like that, it's the basics of how you learned your each LO. And then in your observation, that's kind of where you can say like, yeah, it was really hard for me to ask for help. It was hard for me to do that. And I realized that I needed their help and they wanted to support me. Like, I can talk about that in my observations, right? And then the abstract kind of talks about, accepting help allows, people to care for you, which is important. And then you can find, credible sources that back you up. Like, what other health articles can you find that show that allowing others to help you improves your self-care? There's lots of credible sources out there that can back that up. And so talking about why accepting help allows you to take care of yourself is kind of the focus in the abstract generalizations. So, which this is going to take a lot of work, and I promise you, after this week and a few more weeks, the overwhelming feeling will get less and less, because you'll start working on it, you'll start writing. And then the application is taking each LO and applying it into a new situation, right? So like for my self-care, allowing other people to help me, I would say that, currently I'm letting my mother-in-law take my kids every Wednesday, and she takes them after school and takes them to her house and gives me a break. and it allows me to take care of myself. I try not to do errands or chores or things like that. I try to go, on runs or walks. And my husband and I go and take, a break and have a date night. But like, that's important. And I used to not love that she would do that. It bothered me, but now I look forward to it because I know it's her way of helping me and it allows me to take care of myself. So there you go. So that's the layout. It's a lot of information. So I know most likely you are like confused and overwhelmed and not sure where to start. And that's okay. I promise you, you're not the only one. It's a lot of information. So let's just start with step one. I just want to give you the information so you can just start digesting it and then, put it away and realize, hey, I can, as we move on, I'll remember, oh, you mentioned that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not going to be new information. It's just going to be, the same information over and over again. And each time we go through it, you're going to pull something that helps you with your essay each and every time. So just know that. Okay, so the timeline activity. I really recommend this where you make a timeline from adult to now. And all of the learning that takes place has to be as an adult. So 18 and older, these experiences, the experiences can happen when you're a child, but when you've actually learned about it and processed this learning, it has to be as an adult because we're following the adult learning theory. So that's why. Okay, so I suggest you just, as you can see my timeline, I started, when I was about 23. I probably could make it from when I was 18 and went to college. Lots of stuff happened. I learned a ton. But I just kind of made my adult post-college. So, I went to grad school. I got married, moved to South Korea. I lived overseas, had a baby. I went back to work here, George Fox. And most recently, my development of thyroid cancer. So I can just pull out so for you, I would say just pull out 10 major events that you've gone through in your life and kind of use that and look at it and decide, okay, what are circle the things that you think might be essay worthy? Like you feel like you could write that you've learned things from it. And like I said earlier, I really think your first essay should be something easy for you to tackle, because if you're trying to write something heavy and you're learning this process at the same time, it can be very overwhelming. So I recommend something light, like me moving to South Korea. That's pretty light. Nothing big or major happened to me that was traumatic, but it was transformative. And those are two different things. So your essay has to be transformative, where you've changed, but it doesn't have to be traumatic. It can be something positive. It can be something amazing, like doing one of those couch to 5K runs. That's not traumatic. That's transformative and awesome. And you learned a lot of things from it. And that's great, right? There's nothing traumatic about it. Now, we do have experiences that are traumatic and transformative, and those are perfectly fine to use. Those are completely up to your discretion. But I just would recommend waiting to do those just so you have a little bit more knowledge and information under your belt in regards to the essay writing process. Okay, so the PLA assessment, that's going to be our next step, which we're going to work on. And I'll save a lot of that information for next week. But so once you've kind of got your idea, we're going to work on a cold model for next week and start kind of placing the different, taking your one experience and placing the different information in the different sections. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you want, thinking about what your first essay topic is going to be, because we'll be using that for the next couple weeks. So switching gears, PLA student guide. That is online. You can also ask for a hard copy, which I said. These essays are not perfect. They do not all follow the format that I'm going to be teaching as far as what information goes in each section. They've all received credit. So they've all received some type of credit. And they are really just for discussion purposes. They're not examples to follow necessarily. So a lot of students get these guides and they're like, oh, I'm supposed to write my essay like this. This is super easy. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm going to teach you how to write it. And it's just for discussion, for people to get ideas, topics, just to have an idea of like what people are writing about. And then, yes, they have received some credit, but your goal is 2 to 3 credits. And I will also be posting essays from prior students that have received the 2 to 3 credits. And so you will see the formula that I'm really focusing on, and how each section has its purpose, because it's the same story, just with a different lens on it, each section. So we're just clicking the lenses in the 4 sections. So you'll see that. You'll kind of feel like, oh, I'm saying the same stuff over and over again, but just in a different way. Okay, so, and again, research is not required, but I fully recommend it. And we can go over that more. So, it's a lot of information. And it can be very much of an emotional roller coaster, right? Like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed right now. Now I'm going to try and like, oh, I think I got it. After I've read a couple essays, I think I could do it. Oh, shoot. Like, oh, no, 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 no. So I just want you to know that it'll take time. Each week will get better. And you really just need to start writing, like start trying it and throw it out there. And then we can evaluate it and kind of refine based on the parameters that we're shooting for. So I can't, edit a blank page. So the important thing is to write and to think and to process and get your ideas out there, and then we can evaluate them. So that's really what I want you to know. So for this week, okay, since we have all this information, I just want to narrow the focus down to, okay, write a timeline. Give you some specific things to work on this week so you don't feel so overwhelmed. Write your timeline, get those ideas out, and then pick one that you're going to want to start on, and start writing what you think you learned from the experience, just your learning. And it doesn't have to be written in a certain way. Just what did you learn from it? Like list, do you have 3 to 5 learning outcomes? Now I'm going to teach you how to write them for the essay, but for now, just write them. I really believe in this process to just write out what you've learned, and then we figure out how to transform them into learning outcomes that are abstract. But for now, just do you have 3 to 5? Because if you don't, what's the point in learning how to transform them into abstract LOs if you don't even have 3 to 5? So start there. Have you had time to reflect on this experience? Is it too raw, or have you had some time away? Because again, trying to reflect on it while you're doing the cold model isn't easy, and it's not recommended. So having at least a year away from the experience is what we're looking for. And can you apply the cold model to this experience? So once you've picked your experience, can you figure out, once you've done your research on the cold model, yes, I can do all 4 sections. I really feel like I can explain that situation, and that it's a department that I can pick a department to submit it to, right? Because all of your learning outcomes have to fall under one department. So does your essay gear more towards the religious department, or the health department, or the business department? Are all your learning outcomes related to that department? So those are the things I would like you to work on this week. And I know it's a lot of information. So like I said, please reach out to me. We can set up a time to chat. And we also have the Writing Center as a resource, but as far as like just the concepts of getting the content down, please email me, and we can work on this together. So that's week 1. I'm really looking forward to this course, and it's one of the hardest courses to teach and to grade. It is one of my favorite courses to teach by far. So I'm here for you, I'm championing for you, and my goal is for, by the end of this course, that you have 3 solid essays that will get you credit, that 2 to 3 credit goal. That's what we're looking for. So reach out, let me know how I can help this week, and I just pray that you guys have a really solid week as you are finishing courses and starting this one, that it runs smoothly for you, and hope you see you online. Bye.